Wow, what an honor to be here. I'm honestly feeling just so blessed and grateful. I came all the way from Cape Town to be at this event, and there's literally nothing that replaces humor in-person connection. So thank you so much, Kathleen and Al, for putting all of this together. I'm super excited to be moderating this panel today with these three beautiful creators about how do you create impact in an economy where everyone is literally competing for attention. Who's tired of chasing followers? Who's tired of chasing likes? Who's tired of just creating content with no return? Cool. Okay. So I'm counting on these three beautiful creators to provide the value today. But I'm working with Sudor. I'm leading the marketing and partnerships team. For those who don't know what Sudor does, we build apps for fitness and wellness creators who truly want to own their own business by having their own platform where they can host their community, their on-demand videos, live sessions and classes, literally everything. It's your one-stop shop. And our slogan is just own it. And I think the word I've heard the most today was ownership. And I truly, truly, truly believe that ownership in today's attention economy is the absolute key in thriving as a creator. And before we dive into this discussion, Sudor did a large-scale creator research last year where we interviewed dozens of creators and we checked like what makes creators thriving in today's economy. And the one common denominator was ownership. They owned their voice, they owned their platforms, they owned their desires, they owned their audience, and that was the key. And we're gonna dive today into the 4 pillars that we found makes a thriving creator. So very, very pleased to welcome Josephine, Marie-Chris, and David, all incredible creators. And I would love to start maybe with you, David, in sharing first like what you're doing, who you are, and what ownership means to you.
All right. Is this thing on? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. That's a loaded question. I do a lot of things. I wear many hats. I have a background, former professional musician, fitness, TV. I've done TV, movies, all that stuff, acting. And then, of course, fitness background, built a streaming platform. I've done that for many, many years. Live events, production, all that stuff. So entertainment and fitness is essentially my life. I've kind of taken over. But through that, I guess ownership. What that means to me is just being authentic, ultimately. Staying true to yourself. You had mentioned earlier being tired of chasing likes and followers. Personally, coming from a punk rock background, I've never cared about that, and it's kind of got me in trouble at sometimes. But I also understand the business aspect. We're working with different brands and, my agents and stuff like that, and you got to kind of, so I get it. But I think ultimately it's just being yourself. Be yourself, and you'll find your tribe, as they say, and that's what's worked for me.
Amazing. Thank you. Be yourself. You heard that. Marie-Chris.
Yeah, so for me, I'm a new app owner, thanks to Sudor. Newly fresh, launched on December 29th, new in the game in that space. But I've been a creator for a couple years now. I've been fortunate enough to train on the Center app with Nike, collabs with Amazon, Halle Berry, and just amazing different platforms. And honestly, I feel like it came at a great time when I was on those platforms because similar to you being in the entertainment space, I feel like for years I was really trying to just like fit in like what's going to get me booked. And being of a mixed background, I was confused of like which direction to go, like who am I to make the money and do the thing. But eventually over time, there was this big shift to authenticity. And once I started stepping on these sets, even for Nike, and they're like, okay, we're going to shoot this reel, but they're showing me my reel. I'm like, oh, so you want me. And that was like, I think a big, hey, we want you. Everyone's going to do a push-up, right? There's only so many ways you can do it, but it's how you deliver it that's what we want. And so I think that's what owning it is understanding who your voice is and honestly like looking to the people who work with you and your clients and seeing what they love about you. It's going to tell you exactly like who you are if you're even confused about it even a little bit.
Absolutely love that. Thank you, Marie-Chris. Josephine, what does ownership mean to you?
So ownership to me is to be you. Also, as David said, like really be your true authentic self. There's only one you out there, and the more you lean into that, the better, I would say. And you're the creator of your life. So ownership is,
That and Josephine, I mean, I chatted to you very briefly like 2 days ago, and we talked briefly about like your challenges also with your health and how you just kept going. Like, what motivates you on a daily basis to really just owning it?
Yes, I'm Swedish, I will say too. I actually moved here 10 years ago this year. It was when I came here, I transitioned into working in the fitness industry. Before, I had started working out because I got diagnosed with celiac disease and my body felt so broken down, and I turned to lifting weights in order to build my body back up again. So the way it made me feel, I was like, I want to help other people to feel the same way. This is maybe a little off topic, but just a little bit about my story. And that's when I started to lift weight, and the stronger I felt, the better I felt, and then my body changed, and that inspired and empowered me as well. A few years later, I got a Lyme disease, which is from a tick bite, and that broke me down again even more because it was such a weird thing because it was from day to day. One day I could feel good and work out. The next day I was totally wiped out and I couldn't move barely. The only thing I could do was to get up from bed, and then I forced myself to get out in the sun and move because, again, moving my body still helped even though it was hard. So even walking at that point was a challenge. Yeah, what was the question? I'm like losing.
Basically, what helped
Yeah.
you, like, to show up for yourself, like, even when things were really, really...
So it was basically like the way it made me feel. So it was not from, like, it's never really been all the just aesthetics. Like, how you feel too has been really important.
I'm gonna interrupt everyone in this room very quickly because there's a lot of background noise of people speaking. So if I can ask everyone who's speaking maybe to leave the room and speak outside, or if you're in the room to just lower your volume, that would be super, super appreciative. Thank you so much. Cool. So I think the second word that I heard the most today was consistency. And you just like started touching a little bit upon that. Maybe Marie-Chris, I know you recently entered like motherhood and you now launched your app. And I mean, you obviously have a lot going on. How do you manage to stay consistent? Like, what routines or mindset do you have in place that helps you to show up every day, even when you don't feel like it?
Lots of calendars and alarms, just reminders. No, it takes a lot to understand what can help with consistency. I will say for me, one of the things that really took me a lot of time to figure out if I was ready for an app is, can I consistently show up for my community, right? I think I had a lot of great moments throughout the years of having fun events to do, being on different platforms, but people want you regularly as a coach, right? That's why people stay with you for years. So it took a lot of, investment in courses for me. I love courses, but learning how to create that system. And so specifically with the app, I have my calendars of what to do, but it's like, okay, I need to promote my, new workout on YouTube, right? It's something that I would do, but I would just post it once on Mondays. But how many times have you seen something online and you forget about it? People need to see things a lot. And I think I used to have this mindset of like, oh my God, they're going to be so annoyed. It's the same thing she's posting over and over. But now I've seen multiple times of how like, oh, thank goodness you reached out to me again and you shared that. So the system I create is like, okay, you know what? I can still do this authentically. This doesn't have to be salesy. On Monday, I post the workout because this is when I like to move. All right, midweek, I have a note. It's like a recurring note. We're posting it. Hey, did you get your midweek workout in? If not, here's a reminder for this, right? Then I know Saturdays, the email goes out, here's another reminder. And then I create calendars of this, I repurpose my content. I'm like, okay, well, I don't have to create the same thing over and over. I'm short on time as a mom, but I mean, I'd like to say, at least for me, I do a lot of similar workouts. Like I still program, but they're still my favorite movements that I like to do. And how many people do you know on platforms that do the same workouts because it's just their favorite? it makes them feel some type of way. So it's creating this opportunity to make it easier for myself, but finding ways I can reuse things, but also get people familiar with my brand and style of coaching. So honestly, it's just a lot of reminders as ideas come where I'm talking to clients and, you know, we're going through a challenge right now and they're like, well, how do I decide how to use, what weights do I use? And I haven't created content for that. I'm like, well, why am I going to look for content create when it's right here? People are asking me what they need. So I make a note in my calendar. I think this would be a great time to address making this content and, you know, learning about batch shooting and just different ways to make it work. And as a new mom, you know, it's been an adjustment. It's constantly changing the schedule because what works now won't work later because now I'm chasing my son around. So I went from working in between the 2-hour naps to now I'm up at 5 a.m. and I'm working 5 to 7 and then I work, you know, 8 o'clock until whenever I want to because I have to give myself that grace and you're going to have to find what works. So I think to help with consistency is also being able to give yourself the flexibility to change if it's not working for you. Like, do not feel bad if you can't do it. You got to find what works within that schedule, within that time period, with whatever's going to help you honor yourself, your mental health, your family, holidays, whatever it is.
I love that. Thank you so much. There's a term in the creator economy, it's called the friction point. It's basically that point when you like realize you keep posting, you don't get any engagement, you're tired, every time you create a piece of content, you're like, this is cringe, I don't feel comfortable. And they say 90% of creators stop at the friction point. And my question to you, David, is, because I have a feeling you're way past that friction point, what helped you to get past that point?
Like my whole life's been that friction point. It's always something. That's an interesting question, and I'm not going to bore you guys, so I'll try to keep it short. I went from being a musician trying to cross over into fitness, and I felt a lot of slack because of that, because you're not a bodybuilder, and you don't look like Arnold, and blah, blah, blah. And it's never been my interest. But so that alone was like a hurdle I had to jump over. And, you know, I'm an athlete, grew up as an athlete, so I looked at fitness as an athlete. You know, I played sports, MMA background, that kind of stuff. So standing, and then just evolving with the time, right? So people started accepting that more too, and all kinds of other stuff. But ultimately, just like staying focused. If you have a certain goal, it sounds cheesy and cliche, but you just stay focused on your goal and knowing that like there's always going to be, there's some kind of shit coming at you, especially if you're doing something right. People are going to attack you, bring you down, because, you know, it's like a mirror, right? You reflect things that they gave up on or couldn't achieve or whatever. They always want to put certain limits on you. So you just got to expect that and understand that like you're going to have to work your ass off sometimes to get to where you want to be, and it's going to happen. And through that trial and error, you'll figure it out.
So ultimately, know your why.
Yes. Yes.
And that's also something that came up today again and again and again. The question is that I often ask myself is like, how do you know what your why is? And one thing I learned in the podcast the other day was try to identify what you could talk about for hours without boring yourself. So Josephine, maybe I'll ask you, because we even also again in our conversation, you're so passionate about like showing up, having a goal as like a bodybuilder and showing up despite health challenges. So how did you identify what you're like so obsessed with?
So when you said like, what's your why? That was what started my training journey or fitness journey and health journey. Again, like the way it made me feel. And that's why it's so easy to show up over and over again, because it makes you feel good and it makes you feel better. And then on top of that, it makes you look a certain way and you're happy with that, which makes you, so it's just like a circle basically, where the better you feel, yeah, everything, that's what I found is the most.
Your emotions ultimately are, I guess, your best compass. Let's assume you do know what your why is. You'll probably still have days where you don't feel like it. Do you then just quit because you don't feel like doing it? Or how do you then still keep going?
Yeah, that is a good question. There's definitely days you don't feel like it. But then the more of a routine you have and the longer you've done the routine, the easier it will be to stick to it. Because you're used to it and you go back to like the familiar kind of. So if you have that routine set in stone, that will be easier to keep going.
Another topic or theme that came up again and again today was that ultimately you're going to grow when shit hits the fan, when things are really, really tough. Marie-Chris, do you want to share one of your lowlights in your career?
Which one do I pick from? There's multiple. I think there's multiple points. So One was when I decided to move to LA. It was after a breakup. Not this amazing husband right here. That's why I got to him. But I had just fought to like start my personal training business in person. I just got it to a year. I said, when I have 5 clients, I'm going to quit bartending because it was driving me crazy. I couldn't do it anymore. And I finally got to that point and we broke up. And I remember a couple weeks before that, I said, you know what, in like 3 years, I want to like move to LA. And now I was like, do I stay here? Because I know there's a point where you're comfortable and you fall in love with your clients. So I was like, do I stay here? Or did I just say F it and move to LA? So I moved to LA in 3 weeks versus 3 years. And it sounds like I moved from far away. I was in Long Beach, okay? Let's make that clear. But it was a dream. Like, and it's funny seeing Luke here. Like, I remember I was telling someone earlier, I'm like, I was watching Luke on TV. I'm like, what do they do over there in Hollywood? That looks so cool. And I was like, let's just do it now. Like, why? If I'm going to struggle anyways, let me just see what it's about. And so I was driving back and forth, and I looked. Craigslist was still okay at that time. I found my first group training job, and I just decided to go for it. Went to all the fitness events, stuff like this. And I just remember too, at one point, like I couldn't even charge stuff on a credit card. Like I was in it. Like I found $20 in my pocket at one point. People are like, why do you look so good? I'm like, I think it's because I'm broke, because I'm eating real good. Like, I got a portion control here. But it was, people were like, you're glowing, because I was chasing what I wanted, and I was launching just free challenges at that point, and people were telling me they were getting results. I'm like, why would I quit? This is such a small period right here. And like, I remember my mom, like I was asking for money, like to help pay for rent, and she's like, are you sure you want to do this? I'm like, I have to, like, I can't. And now fast forward, it's like, she's like, this is so cool what you do. And granted, there's still struggles. Like, I'm still an entrepreneur. Like, I felt like I hit the next round having a baby. Like, contracts ended. I'm over here crying to my husband. I'm like, what's next? What do I do? Like, this feels so different. Like, I love being a mom, but I know I still have so much drive. And it took that pivot, and that's where I took these meetings with Sudor. I was up front. I was like, I think this is what I want to do, but I don't know if it's what I want to do yet. But tell me what you do so I can start thinking about the process. So I think when you're in those lows and you don't know what to do, especially if you're someone who's creative, start asking questions in the direction you think you want to go. Because I think as you ask those questions, you start to tell yourself, yes, I want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Yes, tell me more. And it'll just help you kind of pave the road. And it's still a very new journey. I'm still learning, you know, like I've learned the different marketing strategies, but I'm still balancing all the things and figuring out how to make it work. But as I'm growing, I feel honestly so happy having the app, because like to your point, like I feel like I finally own something. I've worked for all these different brands, but I'm like, this is my baby, and people have moved into this community for me. And so I was in this low months ago, but like now I feel like I'm on the up and up, and it feels good. And I think you have to remember that it's really the journey. Like when you get to that point of just like, this is where I want to be and I want to keep going, you're in a good spot. It just gets better from there.
I love that. I literally have goosebumps. David, would you like to share one of your biggest challenges so far that you've...
So many. I have one similar to you too, very similar story. I also went through a breakup, had an opportunity. I moved to Newport Beach, built up a full-on training business out there for similar reasons. Kind of needed a change. That was a little boring, but I can say there's been many times throughout my journey as an entrepreneur where, you know, things are going great, and that's life, right? When things are going great, you know, something's going to happen eventually. And I've had some very close people turn backs on me. I've had things where they were going great, you know, lost, I won. It's one of those things where it's just like a constant roller coaster. Every time you're going to take that step, as you're saying, just be ready for stuff to come that you got to get through. But I think ultimately, as you were saying, like, you got to take the step, you got to take the risk, especially if it's internal and you're like, I got to know. Because to me, falling on your face is better than that regret, you know. So I could tell you, I don't want to bore you guys, but I've had a lot of ups and downs and setbacks, and like I said, close people that you would never thought have put that knife in the back, and you got to kind of start over again, you know, and that happens. But again, at the end of the day, it's like we said, if it's your why, if it's your core, and you know who you are at the end of the day, you just keep going and you'll get where you need to be.
And obviously there's always things you can control, and then there are things you cannot control. I guess in your example, Josefina, with health issues and a tick bite, right? Where did you get that bite, and how did you cope with it?
So I actually don't even know when and where I got the bite. I know because I was in Sweden at the time, and by my summer house there's a lot of like greens, and I had ticks every summer, but I never, like usually you see around like red ring around it, but I never saw that. I just started to get sick, and the doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong with me, so it took 1.5 years for them to figure it out. I even diagnosed myself before. I asked the doctors to take the test, and in Sweden, healthcare is free, so it's not. Sometimes they don't do what you tell them to do, and he was like, I'm 99% sure it's not that. And I was like, okay, so he just didn't do it. I couldn't convince them to do it. So it took another like 6-9 months until they actually took the test. When I finally got like treatment for it. But during that time, it was just like trying to, I feel like I was almost like following the wave because I never knew. So it's like other things in life, I guess. You have to try to be flexible and adapt to like the circumstances, how you feel. That was what I did during that time.
And when you then finally found out what it was, what did you do with that information and how did you keep going?
Yeah, so I had no idea, like I had tried to learn some on my own, but it started with antibiotics, which I don't know if it's the best thing, but it helps at least. And then it was super important for me even more important with nutrition back then because of that, because it actually helps whatever you eat, not eat, in order to try to heal from it. But yeah, just keep nutrition on point and moving and trying to feel as good as I could.
Can you fully recover from that? Or did you fully recover?
I feel like I've had relapses afterwards. Doctors say different things. It's really hard to get like one certain answer in that. Now I feel really recovered, but I feel like I can get like flare-ups every once in a while.
Thanks for sharing. One more thing that really came out in our research, what set basically the successful creators apart was those that had a strong community. And that basically community, which is great news, community is so much more important than reach and numbers of followers. What are the things that you are intentionally doing to build a community? David, I'll start with you.
No, I love that question. I think community is extremely important, and whatever that may look like. Going from music, right? Knowing your audience and those people that you bond, especially from punk rock background, it's like that community. Transitioning to fitness and showing up for people, especially, when I was doing training full time, like showing up for those people and understanding those people. You become like this family in a way, these good friends, and it's just understanding that dynamic in that community, and just it's the, I guess, being human, the humanism behind it, and people relating and understanding, and you talking to people. It's just, I think, the human aspect of it. We're born that way, right? We want community. That's who we are as people. So it's nurturing that and understanding that, and again, just the authenticity behind all of it, and just showing up, being willing to show up,
And I guess for everyone who's here, you're actually actively building community in this moment, thanks to Kathleen and Al for facilitating such a space. But yeah, sometimes we forget that by just being and showing up, we're actually already building something. It's not something we need to do more. Mary Chris, how do you intentionally build community or help people to feel a sense of belonging?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, to your point, is the human experience, just communicating with them, talking to them. Social media is a wonderful thing, right? When you have an event, you share it, you post it, you hope people come. But how many times do people not engage because maybe they don't feel invited to it? I can't tell you how many times I just take that invite, I go directly into their inbox, writing their name and say, hey, I want you to be there. And they respond and they're excited. They're way more engaged with it. I think being a part of the Center app was a great experience for me to see how community is ran. It was very deep, and how much they start to communicate with each other. I think that's also something that's important to do as a fitness professional. It's a lot to take on, and you want to be there for everyone else, but when you get everyone to engage authentically, they start engaging with each other. They start supporting each other. They start to take the load off of you. Not that you're trying to get rid of it, but it's amazing to see. I love when I open the app and they're like, you can do it too. Girl, I'm starting with these weights. Don't worry about it. It's that's what they want. They feel human. They feel okay. They feel like they belong. And if that's what you're trying to create as a culture, you just have to live by it and create that experience. And, it's when we had, I feel like I talk about the baby all the time, but when we had the baby, it's I had people reach out, can we send clothes? It's really? You're on the app here, but people really feel connected to you, and they message you and they say thank you for what you do and you provide to them. And So it's a great thing when you have a big reach, but it's like, don't forget that you are like speaking to them almost like one-on-one, where they really do feel connected with you. So a thank you, a hello, a good job goes a very long way, especially when you mean it and they can feel that.
I love that. And I think answer your DMs. If you have an Instagram account and people message you, obviously respect your own boundaries and set them, but answer, communicate with people, even if it's a, hey, I don't have capacity right now, but thank you for whatever request. I love that. How's it been for you, Josephine? How do you build community?
I think it's based on what we talked about a little bit briefly the other day, how important it is to, even if it's just one person when you start, that one person is what's going to build out to more. So if you're welcoming, or open, honest, inviting to one person, that's going to translate out and you're going to get more and more people. So yeah, just be there for them.
Now let's assume you already know your why, you have a community, you have some followers. Now you have an offer and you want to make money with whatever you have to offer. How do you translate that offer into a value proposition and make people actually want to engage and pay for whatever you want to share with them? I'll start with you, Mary Chris.
I think it's the same thing you're talking, like you talk to them from a real space. It's, if they wanted something salesy, I think they can go anywhere. But, you know, I can say, even for me, when I've purchased stuff, I've seen different lines of like going to an event and it's like, you know, cue the Beyonce song, I Was Here, right? Like if you're just going through this moment and you're just like feeling some type of way, you're like, oh yeah, that's me. Like it's a direct connection that's real, that just doesn't feel generic. I think that's what translates in, like, again, just talking to them. And I think, you know, you take all the different courses, you figure out like what's the best way to sell someone. And while they give you the scripts, like when I look back at it now, it's really just having a conversation with someone. It's like, oh, why are you here? You're like, oh, I'd like to, you know, be able to play with my grandkids. So if you just echo what they're saying, you're like, oh, so like, why do you want to like play with your grandkids, and talk from that space? It's just going to happen, right? Where they just, again, feel like you're giving them exactly what they wanted. Listen and go from there. I know like with creating the app too, it's, you know, while we think we have these great grand ideas that are creative, sometimes things don't necessarily translate, but when you engage your community and ask them what they want, they start giving you everything you need. You want to think about a content plan, just ask the people what they want. And I think kind of just going back, like when I feel stuck, at least speaking from my experience with content, it's because I'm too in my head. And I'm like, what needs to be pretty? What needs to fit this like perfect look? But when I go back, I'm like, okay, what is the question that they asked? I go from there, and you're able to create a bunch of different pieces of content that speak to them, that people start to save, because it's beneficial to them. It's not just something pretty to look at and you're giving them that value. So start to think about why you want to serve people what they want, and it'll build itself naturally. You can use chat to make it all pretty and whatnot. Like chat, at the end of the day, when you're putting it in, it's like you're putting in what they're asking for.
Love that. Thank you. David, what would you say are the things that people are willing to pay you money for?
Wow. So I think it ultimately goes back down to community. I think that's essentially at one point, you know, you have that trust with your audience. So that's why it's your community, right? So I think the authenticity behind that and understanding that they're going to trust and believe what you're putting out there. I can tell you truthfully, my agent has gotten mad at me so many times because there's been brands that have thrown money at me and, you know, certain products. And if I don't like it, if I genuinely don't believe in it or I won't use it, I'll just say no thank you, you know? So, and I think there's that aspect too. So I think if you get to a point where you're like a billboard, people are going to start to see through that too. And I think you're going to kind of like, you know, bring down your value a little bit in that sense, right? And I know some people do that, and by all means, if that works for them, that's great. But for me personally, I think it's just being like authentic with what you're trying to sell. And like she said, just having a conversation. And for talking from marketing, it's like building curiosity, anticipation, confirmation, all that stuff. But I think genuinely just being honest with what you're selling and just providing that value behind it. Why you're using it, why it matters, why it makes sense. And for me, that's worked. That's always worked.
And if I can just piggyback off of what you're saying, like we're talking about marketing strategies and all of that, but at the end of the day, again, you're just having that conversation. I remember one challenge, I was like, I just want to put something out to say thank you to the community. I said, screw it, forget the scripts. I'm just throwing it out there, show up if you want to. And it was probably the most engaged challenge at that point because you were just being real. And like people were just donating funds at that point because I was like, I don't want any funds, but if you feel the need, because someone said throw it in there, I was like, I threw it in there. And it's like people will give if they feel like you're giving them what they're asking for. And it's like at the end of the day, if it's too much to learn the strategy, just do what feels right and share what you're genuinely trying to do, and it's going to come across great. Like think about the posts that you make. Like I think about like, guys, what should I wear today at the store? And it's like you get more engagement just because you're just being real, like I just need help. Like help me out, right? And then versus when you spend all these hours creating, like this is gonna hit and nothing happens. It's just like think about the space that you're sharing from, and I think you'll kind of see that connection. And with creating content, when I hit that lull where I'm like, I can't think of one more strategy to go through, I will literally go through my feed and I said like, where is the most fun I've had creating posts? And it's the silliest things, because that's what I like to do. Like you saw me up here, like I was giving you movements, but like I like to make an experience. That's just me, period. And I looked at my content and I was like, that's exactly who I am. Why am I trying to hit all these trends? These trends are not all me. So just make it who you are, because to the point when that brand finds you that you've been searching for and they get you on set and they want you to create, you're going to want them to pull the reel where you're being yourself, not the one where you were trying to fit in. It just makes it so much easier for you to transition.
Love that.
Can I also just add something?
Yes.
It all comes down to being relatable and to care, I feel like. Because the more you care and the more relatable you are, the easier it will be. And you can be yourself.
So basically, to summarize all of that, find out what your why is. And your why is basically what you can talk about forever without boring yourself. The why is gonna let you know what value you can bring. And once you bring that value, you build trust. And when you build trust, you actually sell automatically. And I think if you follow that process, the sales aspect will feel way more organically rather than like, oh my God, I need to sell this and this and that. So thank you so much for our incredible panelists.
Thank you.
I know time is off, but I just want to highlight once more, if you want to build your own platform and you feel ready, there's going to be a lucky draw very soon, so 2 people can win an app. Come to my desk now and write your name on a piece of paper, and we'll draw the 2 lucky winners very, very soon. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody.